I Love Books, welcome back to my channel. I had a pretty successful reading month this month. I felt like this month went by so fast. Last month I had mentioned that I didn't even crack a book for like half of the month, but this month my reading was very consistent. I've completed 9 books. Now the day that I'm filming this, I still have about 3 days of the month left. I was trying to finish another book for this month, but I really had to film this video today because Monday we start e-learning for my 4th grader and my 6th grader. I'm quite worried about how all of that will go. I imagine that the first week of September is going to be quite hectic as we transition into a new schedule, which mind you, I still haven't been told what the schedule is yet. So yeah, I don't know. So I haven't been able to even plan to rearrange my whole life and write it out and plan as I would like to be already planned out ahead of time. So it's been this really odd limbo this last week, and it's driving me a bit crazy. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into what I've read. I finished a total of 9 books, and I just realized as I was looking at what I read, I've gotten really good at making reading my ebooks as part of my daily reading habits and reading for longer times on my ebook. I'm gonna sidetrack just a second here. I read most of my ebooks on my cell phone because most of the time when I read on my ebook, it's when I'm trying to fall asleep or early in the morning. I do have an iPad, which is now my video camera because my phone sucks, but I use my iPad for my video camera, but I have an iPad too, so I can get like the full page, which is really nice to read on. But I'll be honest, it gets kind of heavy, and so I need to get a new case for it. So I've been liking to read on my phone a lot. So 2 of those 9 books were physical books. 1 of the books I finished was an audiobook. 6 books were ebooks. And that is just incredible to me because only a couple months ago, it was really difficult to read my ebooks. Ebooks are basically the same as reading a physical book. So I looked at the page counts this month, and the total amount of pages I've read is the equivalent of over 2,500 pages. I'm patting myself on the back here. I think my average per month this year, as far as page counts go, has been about 1,500. I haven't actually done the math on that, just looking at my year. So just kind of in the middle, I would estimate about 1,500 pages has been my average page count per month. So that is just, again, just incredible to me. Now, the first 2 books I will mention briefly. Is there such thing as briefly with me? I don't know. The first one I read is Dutch House by Patchett. I have a full review on this book. I have not edited yet, but I will try to link it below. Actually, this video was taking way longer than expected, so the review of the Dutch House book is already up. This is a literary fiction told by Danny. This book I find is actually kind of hard to describe. Actually, it has a lot going on. Danny tells his side of the story through his eyes, which is important because as a little boy, he only sees as a child would make of what is going on in his life. So he tells his story and the story of his older sister, Maeve. How they grew up together, how Maeve took him in after he was kicked out of their home, the Dutch house, and also the story of their childhood or the history of their childhood and their family dynamics and how they got there. Their mother and father were really poor until their father just uprooted them and moved them into this enormous house, the Dutch house. Apparently their mother hated the house, and you will learn later why she hates it, but she hates this house, so she leaves, abandons her children, and then their father remarries. Also, the Dutch house. Very interesting story going on there with the previous owners and how that all comes into play. This house, the title of our book, is almost like a token or more of like a monument to their story. And everything seems to gravitate back to this house. Anyways, this book was a 5-star book for me. I will carry this story with me forever. The writing and the storytelling was very interesting. I think one of my favorite things is the story behind the cover. You could say it's actually really insignificant, but I just really loved it and it really stood out to me, and I think it's just my love for the cover. I don't know why, I just really love this cover. The next book I read was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. This is basically Twilight from Edward's perspective. And that's all I'm really gonna say about this book. I have a full spoiler-free review on this, which I will leave in the description box below, as well as a really fun book tag that I was tagged to do centering around this book, which I haven't filmed yet, so when that's up, you have to go check that out as well. Obviously, I loved this book. It was 5 stars. The next one I started last month for Cramathon, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I finally finished this. I feel like this one took me a really long time to read. I started it for Cramathon, and then I didn't read it all for like 2 weeks. I wasn't motivated to read it because this book is good. I finally finished it like the first week of August. I really like this. I have a weird relationship with this book, I realized, because I wasn't really motivated to read it. I felt like I was trying to just get through it so I can get through the next book. But this is a good book. I really enjoyed the writing style. I mostly enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the magic system, the political system. I liked it. So I don't know why I have meh feelings about it. Anyways, it's about Zeely. She is a magi. I think that's how you say it. Magi's used to have these incredible powers, but then magic was like wiped out before Zeely and her peers came into their power, so she doesn't really exactly know what she's missing. So really only some of the elders that are left really know what they're missing. The Magi have white hair, which distinguishes them as Magi, but they are called maggots and they are treated disgusting. I think that it's really interesting the discrimination that goes throughout this book, especially reading things like that in books with everything that's been recently going on. And not that it hasn't always been kind of going on, but it's just been pushed to the forefront of our consciousness. So then to pick up a book where there's that kind of prejudice going on, I don't know. Anyways, so they're called terrible names and they're overtaxed and they live in fear. So something happens. Well, Zeely has to go and like take care of some business, and then she meets somebody, and like it just spurs this whole adventure. And it takes them on this journey to bring back magic. The friendships created were good. I really liked Amari. And the whole dynamic with the love interest. Now, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that there's a love interest because they all have a love interest. And I think it's kind of predictable. It's predictable. It's so hard to say it without saying it. Basically, it falls along a trope that I just have not really liked that much. I haven't really read that much of it either. So I was really excited to read this dynamic of this love interest in this book, and I liked it. I do think I missed something because I was watching some other reviews and they were like, oh, it was very insta-love, like it just came out of nowhere. So maybe I missed something, but I don't know. I think it's just the buildup. Like it made sense to me. It made sense. Even if they kind of rushed into it later, it made sense to me, and I like that. Amari. I liked Amari. I really liked her. She was the best character in this. The thing I didn't like was probably Zeely. Did I not just say how much I hated the tough girl trope? If you haven't seen that video, don't get me wrong, I love kick-ass characters. Even if they get a little bit ridiculous sometimes, I still love the female character who's a badass, kicks ass. It's cool, like all the ridiculous of it sometimes, it's forgiven. But I just really get irritated with characters who jump immediately into violence and punching everyone they interact with. It's just way too much. It's like, calm down for a minute and like, let's talk. And that was Zeely. I get her anger. There's other characters I've read who don't probably have the same justification as her. Like she's very justified in her anger, but still just no. She did tone it down as the book went on, but it's kind of one of those first impression things. When a character gives you this first impression or a book gives you this first impression, it kind of sticks with you and it takes a long time for it to work itself out. And that's probably the point. But I still just I will always remember Zeely as that character that's irritating. So will I pick up the next book? I don't know. Well, I thought that this book really had a lot of really good things. I don't know why, but I lost interest. It's kind of like, I don't think I liked it that much, but what's to not like? But I was just eager to finish it. Is it a product of my taste changing? A story that's potentially overdone? Am I just over too much fantasy in my life? It could also be because this book had so much hype around it. So maybe I just had higher expectations for it and it just kind of left me, maybe I just wanted something different or more out of it. I don't know. The next thing I read was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book was August's choice for the Dark Academics book club. Let me go ahead and tell you what it's about. I have a lot of feelings on this book. It's about a group of fourth year kids who attend this like specialty drama school where they study and perform Shakespeare plays. Then one of the group, Richard, dies. So the storytelling style starts with Oliver talking to the detective 10 years after that he's been released from prison, and he's telling his story. So we go back to the beginning of their fourth year and go through the motions. Formatting. I could not get with the program on what format to read this. I started with the ebook, but even then it was kind of hard for me to read like a dense book. This book is a pretty long book. Reading on my phone, yeah, it just felt like it just kept going and going. Then I went to audiobook, and then I went back to ebook because I felt that it was very confusing. Bouncing from the past to the present in the audiobook, I kept getting them confused and I didn't know where I was and who was talking, and I just found it really confusing, so I went back to the ebook. So I started this book like 3 different times. I think if I had had the physical book, it would have started me off on the right foot to start with, but whatever, that's beside the point now. Recently, this book has made its rounds on booktube, being recommended by several booktubers that I really like to watch a lot. Plus, with the whole Shakespeare flair, I was so excited for this book. So I thought that without a doubt, this would be a 5-star book for me. Unfortunately, I did not care for this book that much. There are 7 characters in the group. We have Oliver, who went to prison for a crime. So first we have to discover, well, what was the crime? So then we find out Richard is dead, and we could put 2 and 2 together. But Oliver is such a passive and docile character, it was hard to imagine that he did it. So it was like, there has to be something else. I mean, this is a dark academic. So we had to find out the next part of this mystery of how he ended up in prison. How, like, did he do it? Was he set up? Like, what happened to land him in prison for 10 years? But of all these characters, there's really only 3 who matter. And I think with having a lot of these extra characters, it added to just too much information, or they're almost kind of unnecessary. I don't know. Anyways, there's Oliver, obviously, Meredith, and James, and Richard, of course. But being that he's dead, he doesn't have much of a role. The other characters, I don't know, they're just fodder. They're unnecessary. They chime in for their role, but then they kind of seem like, who are they? After reading this book, I was just like, I had no idea even how to explain my thoughts on this book. The Dark Academics Book Club does their live show, so I tuned in for that, and I guess it really kind of helped me put my thoughts together. And I guess in retrospect, I can see how in the drama profession, being typecasted based on your looks and personality traits can happen. But at the time of reading it, it just drove me crazy. I really hated this biased, like, Meredith is the sexy one that all the boys dream about being with, and then, oh hey, like, because of who she chose. So cliche. Then we have Richard. Richard is the token jock. He's a stereotypical muscly man's man, and he's typecasted as our hero character. And they even mention it in every single play. He's like the lead male character. Which, again, I guess that kind of goes back into why, at least in the drama profession, that it makes sense. I think I was being a little too harsh on it in that respect. Alexander is the character with all the drugs, and he's always kind of typecasted as like the Weasley character and like the shady one. James is like our token sidekick. Oliver's like our chameleon. They also tend to play that in real life. Now that part, I don't know. I don't know much about drama. It doesn't seem like it's real. It seems like it was being a little cliche and like playing out their on stage roles in real life. I guess there's a point to where maybe that's really charming and that's fun and that's nostalgic. But to me, I think it just bothered me. Other things that I was just like, nah, whatever about was that it was kind of predictable. The first play is Julius Caesar. And they mentioned about 3 times that Julius dies in the 3rd act. And I kind of already saw what was coming. Wonder if I would have had a different experience with this book if I was more familiar with that play. Now there's other plays that I have read, like Hamlet was mentioned and a couple others, but I don't necessarily think that you have to be familiar with Julius Caesar to understand what's going on in this book just because they tell you what's going on. I also thought that the conclusion was a bit anticlimactic. I did find though that I had no suspects or really knew what was going on until like right before the reveal. So that was good. Something else that I liked is the characters were so passionate about Shakespeare. They lived and breathed Shakespeare all the time. Even when they're not on stage or in class, Shakespeare is a part of their lifestyle. And I thought that that was so cool. Like they would just be talking to each other and quoting Shakespeare, or like just using Shakespearean language to express themselves in just casual conversations. And I really liked that. Initially, I think maybe I went into this book looking for the wrong thing. I went into this book looking for the conclusion to the mystery. Probably should have been looking at how this crime is affecting our characters. I think that the purpose was much more about the dynamic of the characters and how they're unraveling, which is so Shakespearean, okay? How did I miss this until like way later? Now that I see it that way, I can kind of appreciate this book more than I had. Overall, I think that this book would make a fantastic movie. I think that I would enjoy the movie so much better than the book. The book was really long. There was parts of the book where they were explaining what's going on stage. Oliver's backstage watching what's happening on stage. You can visualize it, but it would just make more sense to just watch it, because Shakespeare's meant to be watched and not read. So I think that would just make such a fantastic movie. I probably had enough thoughts to have a whole separate video about that book, but I decided not to go there. We're gonna move on. So the next book I read is The Tea Dragon Society. I am so excited. They finally got this book in on Hoopla. It has to be new, because I went searching for it when everyone on booktube was talking about this cute book. My son at the time was really into dragons, just anything dragons. He was just, if it did not have dragons, he didn't want to read it. So I was like, I really wanted to get my hands on this book. Couldn't find it. Now I think he's over the dragon thing. I still really wanted to read this book. And oh my gosh, it is the cutest thing ever. The illustrations are just so beautiful. I am just so in love with these cute little dragons, and they have like little flowers growing off the tops of their heads. People characters are so cute and actually really interesting. Like there's the guy in the wheelchair. I really love the girl who's like wouldn't talk to anybody until the main character goes to talk to her, and like they become friends. And I do think I will be reading the next one in the next couple of days. So the next book I read is The Yellow Wallpaper. And after like being slogged down by books that just take forever to read, and also I want to get closer to my Goodreads reading goal, so I decided to try to pick up a couple really short books. Just the satisfaction of being able to finish a book super quick, you know? So I picked up The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This book is about a woman who has a nervous disorder. Apparently she has a pretty good life. She's married to a doctor. She just had a baby and stuff, but after giving birth, she has like a nervous disorder. The way they handled mental health in those days is why this book is so important and why I liked it so much, but they prescribe her to rest. She's not supposed to partake in anything like writing or going outside or like reading, like nothing. She's just literally just supposed to sit there and rest. Her mind just starts to wander, and she becomes obsessed with this yellow wallpaper. So she appears to be getting worse and worse. So the purpose of this book is, I guess the author, Miss Gilman, she went through something similar to this, and she wrote this book to spread awareness that this rest is terrible. This book was just really good, and granted it has a very serious topic. It's very spooky. If you don't know the backstory, it almost feels like a surreal, potentially supernatural story, but it's real, and I really liked this book. The next book I picked up was for much the same reason I picked up The Yellow Wallpaper. It was very short. And I was working on my Rory Gilmore reading list and just kind of figuring out which books I've already read, which ones I own on my shelves already, and I found HOWL. Season 2, in the Gilmore Girls, Rory lends it to Jess, and Jess reads it like 3 times back to back, and he loves that. So they gush over this book. This is a really short book of poems, and honestly I didn't have high hopes for it to begin with, because you know me with poetry. Me and poetry but this is worse. I read it in a few stages, and honestly, I feel like I just don't have patience for it. Because then I was kind of reviewing some of my notes that I taken while I was reading it. I could see why somebody would like some of the longer pieces. We're gonna briefly go over a couple of the pieces because I just had some thoughts that I wanted to go ahead and share. So the second one is called Footnote to Howl. And you cannot convince me that this is good. I noticed that he talks about drugs a lot. You know me when it comes to drugs, I don't think it's cool anymore to like romanticize drugs and make it like this like sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of lifestyle. So yeah, although I do understand that there was a lot of that just probably in his life. The transcription of organ music. This was probably the worst one of the whole book, now that I kind of look back at everything. And this is probably what was like standing out in my mind. I judged the whole book because of this piece, because I was like, what even is this? I feel like it's this weird outline of a story that's like missing chunks of sentences. It's missing words, and it just jumps from like one point to another that make no damn sense. It's completely disjointed. Isn't poetry like supposed to rhyme or have a beat or something to like make it flow? This doesn't flow at all. My first grader wrote better sentences than this. Let me go ahead and read the worst poem ever. There's only one word. Holy, 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 holy. Like a dozen freaking times. The word is holy. I figured that one out. The soul is holy, the skin is holy, the nose is holy, the tongue, cock, and hand, and asshole holy. Why? No, okay, we're not even, no. Okay, here's another one, the second one I was talking about. Transcription of organ music. The flower in the glass, peanut bottle, formerly in the kitchen, crooked, to take a place in the light. The closet door opened because I used it before. It kindly stayed open, waiting for me, its owner. I began to feel my misery in palette on floor. Listening to music, my misery, that's why I want to sing. The room closed down on me. I expected the presence of the creator. I saw my gray painted walls and ceiling. They contained my room. They contained me. As the sky contained my garden, I opened my door. I guess it sort of comes together, but still, I don't get it. I don't understand why. The animal heads of the flowers where they had arisen to think at the sun. Can I bring back the words, will thought of transcription haze my mental open eye? What? What even is that? I might be showing how dumb I am because I don't get it. I don't know. The kindly search for growth, the gracious desire to exist of the flowers, my near ecstasy at existing among them. Okay. The privilege to witness my existence, you too must seek the sun. My books piled up before me for my use, waiting in space where I placed them. They haven't disappeared. Time's left its remnants. Time? It should say time, not times. Time's left its remnants and qualities for me to use. My words piled up, my texts, my manuscripts, my loves. Like, did we not even edit this? I had a moment of clarity, saw the feeling in the heart of things, walked out to the garden crying. Saw the red blossoms on the night light, sun's gone, they had all grown in a moment and were waiting, stopped in time for the day sun to come and give them ... I'm so lonely in my glory, except they too out there. I looked up, those red bushes, as in the flower, the suffering, lonely world. The Father is merciful. The light socket is crudely attached to the ceiling after the house was built to receive a plug which sticks in it all right and serves my... The closet door is open for me where I left it. Since I left it open, it has graciously stayed open. The kitchen has no door. The hole there will admit me should I wish to enter the kitchen. I'm sorry. This is so dumb. I don't get it. I remember when I first got laid, HP graciously took my cherry. Why does that have anything to do with the kitchen? Did he take him in the kitchen? Oh, when he says closet, does he mean about him being gay? Is he talking figurative closet or real closet? I sat on the docks of Provincetown, age 23, joyful, elevated in hope with the father. The door to the womb was open to admit me. I remember when I first got laid, HP graciously took my cherry. I sat on the docks of Provincetown, age 23. There are unused electricity plugs all over my house if I ever need them. The kitchen window is open to admit air. The telephone, sad to relate, sits on the floor. I haven't the money to get it connected. I want people to bow as they see me and say he is gifted with poetry. He has seen the presence of the Creator, and the Creator gave me a shot of his presence to gratify my wish, so as not to cheat me on my yearning for him. That was painful. That was seriously painful. Okay, I'm done. No, wait, hold on. I told you I liked, I can't really say I liked it. I saw potential in America. God, it is long. I have no patience to read all of it. I did highlight one thing. Why am I trying so hard? What does it matter? It says, are you going to let your emotional life be run by Time magazine? I'm obsessed by Time magazine. I read it every week. Its cover stares at me every time I slink past the cover candy store. I read it in the basement of the Berkeley Public Library. It's always telling me about responsibility. Businessmen are serious. Movie producers are serious. Everybody's serious but me. I actually really like that because I can relate to that. Yeah. Anyways, I am done with Howl. Will I ever revisit anything by Allen Ginsberg? I think I have to, just because. He's so beloved. Yeah, so that was that. Next up, I read Sawkill Girls. I loved this book so much. It takes place on Sawkill Rock, which is an island, and there's like a small town. Marion and her sister, they just moved to Sawkill, and something happens like right away. Then we also have Zoe. She's a relatively new resident to Sawkill, and her best friend had gone missing. I don't remember the time frame on it, but she has a best friend that went missing mysteriously. And so she starts looking into all of the missing girls. Sawkill Girls. The Sawkill Girls are basically all the girls who've gone missing mysteriously and they have not shown up. And there's all this strange and ooky stuff going on. I really feel like you're better off going into this book blind, but it's very like atmospheric. It's very spooky. I really liked the writing style and how gruesome some things were explained and described. It was pretty raw and I really liked, it felt like there's like the story and then all of a sudden just out of nowhere, there's like a violent description of something. Like beauty and violence kind of going together here. I really liked the characters a lot. Finally, I read Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This one was a bit of a letdown. I really liked the whole pirate adventure thing. In essence, it was really fun and I liked the concept. I just did not like the characters much. They really didn't stick with me. The story is probably not going to stick with me at all. I really liked our main character's like mission and reason for being there and like how she was going about getting stuff done. It's hard to explain without like spoiling anything. I guess she just really annoyed me until we discover like her secret and like what's more to her character, which I thought made her less annoying. But still, she was so annoying until that point that I just could not get over it. But it explains a lot about her character and why she acts the way that she acts. I guess I just feel like a lot of stuff was just kind of basic and maybe I was expecting something different. I don't really know. I probably will not be continuing this story for obvious reasons. This book left me kind of meh. I love the cover art though. I think the cover art gave me expectations of a completely different vibe than it delivered. But that is everything. That's all my thoughts and my feels on everything that I read in the month of August. I really hope that despite school starting and everything, I will still have lots of time to still read as much. We'll see. I didn't really give star ratings on everything. I kind of feel like some of them, my experience with the book was like really weird, so I just feel like I can't really give it a star. Anyways, I'm gonna describe these books in a tier fashion. 3 of the books were amazing. Midnight Sun, The Dutch House, Yellow Wallpaper. Love those books. They are going to stick with me. I'm going to remember them. I'm going to recommend them. Another book was Good Shit. I loved it. Why it isn't amazing, I don't know why it didn't hit the amazing mark, but it's still good shit. That was Sawkill Girls. One was super cute, obviously Tea Dragon Society. One book was aight, and the rest were meh. And that is that. That was my experience. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Bye.